Hello, in this video, I'll take you through DesignVAT's MRP template. Now, this material resource planning template enables you plan your production process and also monitor your inventory movement. It's made up of three major components. It has the master production schedule, which enables you map out your required demand. The bill of materials, which enables you specify the production requirements per product. So you list all the raw materials required to produce 1 unit of each product. And lastly, it enables you manage your inventory records. So your raw material inventory and your finished goods inventory. So on the screen, I've opened up the template and it's powered with Microsoft Excel. So you need to have Microsoft Excel, preferably a version from 2013, installed on your computer. Once you open up the template, you arrive at the dashboard, and this holds 3 thumbnails to navigate to 3 sections of the template. We have the product section, where you add your products, the movement section, where you indicate when you're selling products or when you're transferring it from one location to another, and the report section, where you can generate multiple reports. Now in this video, I'm going to go through all the sections, starting with the product section. So to open a particular section, you simply click. So clicking on the thumbnail takes us to that section of the template. So now we're in the product section of the template. Now all sections of this template have a similar formatting. In the upper left-hand corner, we have the section title, and this tells the user at any point in time the section you're currently on. So notice it says finished goods, products list. So you know this is where you list all your finished goods. So any product that you sell, you need to indicate it here. To the right of this, we have a delete button to delete existing products. Above this, we have a navigation pane, and this holds several buttons to navigate to other sections of the template. Now, each button is represented by a label. You simply click on the label, for instance, dashboard, and it takes you to that section of the template. Recall this is where we initially started. We then clicked on products. So each label represents a button to navigate to a particular section of the template. Below the delete button here, we have our data table, and this is where all products you sell should be listed. At the top, we have our column headers. These are the attributes you're expected to supply per product. So for every product you enter, you need to specify the product name and the reorder level. The balance and stock will be automatically calculated by the template. Now to add a new product, you simply double click on the field below product name. So once you double click, you go ahead and type the product name. Now for this demonstration, I'm going to assume that we produce 2 products. The first is a drink, a Zobo drink, and the second is a wooden table. Now I know these are extremely different products, but I selected these items so that you can better relate it to your business. So if you sell consumer goods, you can use the Zobo example, and if you make physical items like electronic furniture, you can use the wooden table example. Now once you double click on the field, you go ahead and type the product name. I'm going to type the drink. Once you're done entering the name, you make use of the tab key on your keyboard to move to the next field where you enter the reorder level. Now the reorder level is the level of inventory which triggers an action. So it informs you that you need to replenish your stock or you need to produce additional units of that particular product. So it's pretty much the minimum amount of an item that your firm can hold in stock. So whenever the quantity, that's the balance in stock, is below this reorder level, it notifies you that you need to order additional units. And the method of notification is that the cell will be highlighted in red. So once it's in red, you know that you've reached your reorder level. You need to produce additional units of that particular product. So let's assume that our reorder point is 20. So that means we should have a minimum of 20 units at any point in time of Zobo drinks. So whenever the quantity is less than 20, this row will be highlighted in red. You notice once I click enter, we have a red alert because the balance in stock is 0 and our reorder level is 20. Now, once you produce additional units and it exceeds 20, this red alert will automatically disappear. Now, the template supports a maximum of 4 locations. Later on in the video, I'm going to show you how you can modify the name of every location. So it supports a maximum of 4 locations. The balance in stock tells you the total, that's the aggregate total across the 4 locations. Later on, there's another section where you can be able to know the total per location. So this balance in stock is the grand total across the 4 locations. And if you don't use 4 locations, you can ignore the other 3 and make use of only 1. Now to add another product, you simply double click on the cell beneath the last entry and then type the product name. Once you're done, you make use of the tab key to move to the next field where you enter the reorder level. So let's assume the reorder point is 5. So anything 5 or less, this should highlight in red, telling me that I need to produce additional tables. So that's a summary of how you add products to the product section. You simply double click on the cell beneath the last entry, type the product name, make use of the tab key to move to the next field, and then you enter the reorder level. The template will automatically calculate the balance in stock. Now, to delete an existing product, all you need to do is to simply click on the product name and then make use of the delete button. Now, every product is represented on this table by a row. So the first row represents the first product, the second row, the second product, and so on. So if you have 20 products, you're going to have 20 respective rows. So if you want to delete any product, all you need to do is to click on any cell in that row. So I want to delete this last row. So I need to click on any cell, for instance, the product name cell. You notice the border there. Once I click delete, I'm telling Excel that this is the active row that I want to delete. You get a confirmation message. Once you click yes, it's going to go ahead and delete that row. So let me just repeat that a second time. So let's assume I want to delete the wooden table. So I need to be on that row. So I simply click on wooden table. You notice the border around the cell. Once I click delete, I get my confirmation message asking me if I want to delete the wooden table. If I do, I click on yes. If I don't, I click on no. So that's how you add and delete existing products. So we've covered the product section where you list all the products that you sell and or produce. Next, we move on to the raw material section, where you indicate the raw materials that you use to manufacture these products. To do that, you simply click on the label, raw materials, and it takes us to that section of the template. So now we're in the raw materials section. You notice a similar formatting. The section title at the top telling you this is where you list all your raw materials. A delete button on the right to delete existing raw materials. The navigation pane in the upper right hand corner. And a data table at the bottom where all your raw materials will be listed. At the top, we have our column headers. That's the attributes you're expected to supply. For every raw material, you need to indicate the raw material name, the unit of measure, and the reorder level. The template will automatically calculate the balance in stock. So basically, the raw materials, these are the sub-assemblies or component parts that are used in the production of finished goods. Now, the template supports only one layer of production. So that means that for every product you make, it's assumed that there's only one layer. There are not multiple layers. So sub-assemblies are not supported in this template. Now, to add a new raw material, simply double-click on the field below raw materials and then type in the raw material name. Now, for our first product, which is the Zobo drink, the first raw material will be the Zobo leaves. Now, once you're done entering material name, you make use of the tab key on your keyboard to move to the next field where you indicate the unit of measure. Now, let's assume that I buy my leaves in kg, so that'll be kilograms. Next, I indicate my reorder level. So how many kilograms of Zobo leaves must I always have in my store? So let's assume that I must always have 10. And you notice the red alert because my balance is 0, but I need a minimum of 10. To add another raw material, you repeat the process. Click on the cell below the last entry. Enter the raw material name. So we need Zobo in the production of Zobo. We need sugar, in the production of Zobo. Next, the unit of measure. So let's assume that I buy my sugar in packets. And the reorder level is I need to have a minimum of 5 packets. So you equally notice the red alert because we have 0, which is below our order level. To add another, you repeat the process. For my table, first of all, I need the top layers. That's the wood that I put on top of the table where you place your items on the table. And I'm just going to leave the unit of measure blank. Let's assume that I must have a minimum of 10. Next, I need my table legs because each table has 4 legs. So this would just be table legs. And my reorder level is going to be 40. So there we go. So I've indicated the total that I need. All my raw materials that I use in producing my products. So that's pretty much a summary of how this section works. You just list all the raw materials that you use in the production of your finished goods. You double click, enter the raw material name, the unit of measure, and the reorder level. The template will automatically calculate the balance in stock. Deleting is the same thing. You simply click on any cell in that row, click delete, and then you click on yes. So now we've covered the raw material in the product section. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add restock. So we're going to count the total units or the quantities of raw materials we have in our stock, and then we're going to enter it in the restock section so that the balance in stock can increase, reflecting what we have in our store. Now to do that, you simply click on the restock button to take us to that section. So this is where you document all restock information. So whenever you purchase additional raw materials, so additional units of each raw material, you need to document the information here so the template can automatically update the balance in stock. Now, before we cover the restock section, first of all, you need to indicate the storage limits capacity per location for each product and each raw material. To do that, you simply go to the storage limits section by clicking on the label. Now, recall at the start of the video, I mentioned that the template supports up to 4 locations. By default, we've provided generic names, location 1, 2, 3, and warehouse. Now, later on in the video, I'm going to show how you can modify these names to better suit your business to things like Abuja branch, Kaduna branch, and so on. But these are the default entries. Now, the template allows you to specify a storage limit capacity per raw material per product. So for each location, for instance, location 1, you can indicate that location 1 can store a maximum of 50 kg of your Zobo leaves. Now, the advantage of this is whenever you're adding restocks, if you enter a quantity that is above the specified limit, 50, the template is going to tell you that this is above your storage capacity. So in other words, if you make that purchase, there's going to be nowhere to store it. So this just helps you so that you don't purchase more units than you can store in your locations. Now, to do that, in the storage limits section, you simply click on the Add Product button. Once you do, it pops up a form. First, you need to indicate the item type. So which item type are you indicating the storage limits? Is it a product or a raw material? Now, once you indicate product, once you move to the item name field using your tab key, the template will automatically list all products in your database. In the same way, if you select raw material and move to the next field, the item name will display all raw materials. So the item name field is a dynamic drop-down list. The values displayed here is subject to your selection in the item name field above. Now, I'm going to leave it on raw materials, and under item name, I'm going to select Zobo leaves. Once I'm done, I click on enter, and it's going to insert a new row for my Zobo leaves. Next, I need to indicate for each location the maximum quantity that it can store of Zobo leaves. To do that, simply under the column name, location 1, you indicate the maximum for location 1, location 2, 3, and so on. Now, if you have only one location, simply make use of only the first column. If you have 2 locations, make use of the first 2, 3, the first 3, and so on. But the template supports a maximum of 4 locations. So let's assume that location 1 can take a maximum of 50 kg of Zobo leaves. So here I simply indicate 50. So whenever I'm purchasing additional units, the template is going to count how many I have in store and then tell me what I have space for so that I don't buy more than I can be able to store in location 1. It's going to do the same if I indicate a quantity for location 2, 3, and so on. For all my demonstrations, I'm going to assume we have only 2 locations. To add another product, you repeat the process. Click on Add Product, indicate the type, specify the item name, click on Enter. It's going to automatically insert a row. And then under the respective location columns, you indicate the maximum storage capacity. So for sugar, let's assume that I can have a maximum of 30 packets. And in location 2, I can have only 10 packets. So now I've indicated the storage capacity for these 2 products. So you notice that if I go to the restock section now, and I click on New Restock, the restock form simply provides a simpler way to store data to this data table. So you notice the column headers at the top are equally listed on the form as labels. The user simply has to supply values to the white portion of the form. Now, the first attribute you're expected to supply is the restock date, and by default, Excel is going to enter today's date. You can, however, modify the date, the month, or the year. Now, the format of the date depends on the settings on your computer. So mine is day, month, year. That's why it's in this format. So kindly check the settings on your computer before using the template so that you know if yours is day, month, year or month, day, year. In whichever case, if it's month, day, year, you simply flip the 12 with the 30. So the month comes first, then the day, then the year. So this is dependent on the settings on your computer. Next, you indicate the location. Now, this is the destination location. So this raw material that you're purchasing, which of your locations are you going to transfer it to? Now, this is going to list all locations, location 1, 2, 3, and the warehouse. Recall I said later on you can modify the default values. So I'm going to click on location 1. Next, I indicate the raw material that I'm buying. Now, once you select the raw material, notice it lists all. The template will automatically tell you the space available based on the location that you selected. And this is using information we entered in the storage section. So at a glance, you already know that the space available is 50 and the location can take only 50. So what this means is that we actually have no Zobo leaves in our store. So 50, the location can take, and we have nothing, so we can buy 50. So I can go ahead and enter 30, click on enter, and it's going to store that transaction because 30 is within my storage capacity. So you notice the first row is automatically populated, the date of the transaction, the location, the material, and the quantity. Now if I click new restock again, and I repeat the process, selecting location 1 and Zobo leaf, you notice this time around the quantity is reduced. So the location capacity is always fixed, 50. This is based on what I specified in the storage limits. However, the space available varies depending on when you use your raw materials and when you purchase additional units. So now we have only 20 left because we just indicated that we purchased 30. So 30 units or 30 kg of Zobo leaves is currently being stored in location 1. So we have space for only 20 more. And if I attempt to buy, for instance, 25, you notice the template will not allow me store this transaction because 25 is above what I can store based on my capacity level. So regardless of the number of times I click enter, you notice it tells me quantity above. So I need to enter a quantity that is below or equal to 20. So if I enter 20, you notice it's fine, I can click enter. And once I click enter, what that means is that right now, my location 1 capacity for Zobo leaves is filled up because I first had 30, then I bought 20, giving me a total of 50. So now if I click new restock and I select location 1 again, Zobo leaf, you notice it tells me space available is 0. And if I attempt to enter any quantity above 0, it's not going to allow me store this restock. So the mechanism has been put in place to enable or to ensure that you don't purchase more than you have space available to store. So that's the advantage of the storage limit section. Now, whenever you get this red alert, to clear it, simply press the ESC key on your keyboard once or twice. It's going to clear the value there, and then you can then click cancel. So that's the advantage of the storage limit. Now, recall that we entered for location 2 that Zobo leaves, we can take 30 kg. So if I go to my restock section, click on new restock, I'm just going to leave the default date, but here I select location 2. Then I select Zobo leaves. You notice the capacity it tells me is 30. So it will automatically extract that information from the storage limit section. So the capacity of the location is 30. It can store 30 kg of Zobo leaves. I have nothing, so the space available is 30. If I go ahead and enter 10 and click enter, we should now see that the balance should reduce. So if I click new restock quickly, and I click location 2, and I type Zobo, you notice it tells me capacity of 30, but I have space available for only 20 because I just purchased 10. So that's how all sections are interconnected. Now, in the same way, we've told the template that we've purchased additional units of Zobo leaves. We've purchased 50 kg into location 1 and 10 kg into location 2. Now, if you go to the raw material section, recall I said the balance in stock tells you the total across all locations. So it's going to sum up location 1, 2, 3 up until the warehouse. That's why we have a balance in stock of 60. And you notice the red alert has gone because the reorder level is 10, but now we have more than 10, so there is no reorder alert on that row. However, the red retains for the other raw materials. 60 is the sum of all that we purchased. So the balance in stock is the sum, the aggregate total across all of your locations. Later on, I'm going to show you how you can see the balance per location. So that's a summary of how the storage limit works. So before using the template, it's advisable to enter this for all of your raw materials and equally for all of your products. I'm equally going to do the same for the actual product, which is the Zobo. And let's assume that location 1 can take 100 units of my Zobo, and location 2 can take 200 units. In the same way, when I'm entering production values in the production section, the template will not allow me to produce more than the location can store. So there's a difference between the raw material storage capacity and the finished goods storage capacity. So that's pretty much how the storage limit section works. All other functionalities are the same. To delete any particular requirement, you simply click on the first cell on that row, click on delete. The confirmation message comes up asking you if you want to delete the Zobo drink. If you do, you click yes. If you don't, you click no. So that's how you add new storage limit capacities per product and raw materials, and how you delete existing capacities. Going back to the restock section, I think we've also covered this section. You click the new restock, you indicate the date you're making the restock, the location you're transferring the raw materials to, the raw material name, and the respective quantities. To delete, you simply click on any cell in that row. So if I want to delete this last entry, it's made up of the date cell, location cell, raw material name cell, and quantity cell. So I can click on any of the cells. Once I click delete, I'm telling Excel that this is the active row. I want to delete this active row. Once I click yes, it's going to go ahead and delete this restock information. And the last thing I mentioned earlier is you can't enter future transactions. So I can backdate, for instance, the first day of December, but I can't enter 2019. So you're not allowed to enter future transactions. You can enter past transactions and current transactions. So I'm going to click cancel. So that covers the restock section. So we covered the raw materials, product restock, and the storage limits. Now, before we cover the sales section, first of all, we need to produce some products because we can't sell anything because in our product section, we have 0 units of all of our products. Now, before you can produce, first of all, you need to tell the template the product requirements. So you need to update your bill of materials section. Now, to do that, you simply go to the requirements section of the template. So now we're in the product requirements section. Now this is where you document the product structure of each end item. Now by end item, we mean your finished goods. So here you need to list all raw materials with their respective quantities that you need to produce 1 unit of each of your products. It's also referred to as the bill of materials section, and the note here tells you that this is where you list all raw materials needed to produce 1 unit of each product. Now it works just like other sections. In the upper left hand corner, we have the section title, which tells you this is where you list your requirements. To the right of this, we have 2 buttons: to add a new product build, to delete an existing one. Above, we have a navigation pane, and below we have our data table where all material requirements should be listed. Now this works with the database system such that you list the product name, you list the respective raw materials, quantities, and an optional description. Now to add a new product build, you simply click on the Add Product Build button and it pops up a form. On the form, you're expected to supply 2 attributes. Firstly, the product name, which you select from a drop-down list, for instance, Zobo. Next, you indicate the number of materials. Now by number of materials, we mean the number of raw materials or the ingredients. How many ingredients do you need to produce 1 bottle of Zobo? Now based on this demonstration, we entered only 2 raw materials for Zobo. So we entered the Zobo leaves and sugar. Now this is not practical because in the real sense of it, you need many more ingredients, but for demonstration purposes, we're limiting it to only 2 ingredients. So let's assume that you only need 2 ingredients to produce 1 bottle of Zobo drink. So under number of raw materials, I'm going to enter 2. So if you need 10 ingredients, under raw materials, you enter 10. Now once I click enter, the template will automatically insert 2 rows because I indicated 2 materials. The first row, I need to specify the material I need. The second row, the material that I need. The template will automatically append the product name on the 2 rows. So under material needed, I'm going to select Zobo leaves. Next, I'm going to select sugar. Next, I need to indicate the quantity of each. So what is the quantity of Zobo leaf I need for 1 bottle of Zobo drink? What is the quantity of sugar I need for 1 bottle of Zobo drink? Now, the quantity is a very important column. The unit of measure you specify here should be the same as that in which you specified in the raw material section and in the restock section. Let me explain that. Now, in the raw material section, the second column, you indicated the unit of measure. And we indicated that Zobo leaves, the unit of measure is in kilogram. So what this means is that whenever we are buying Zobo leaves, the unit of measure in the restock section also has to be kilograms. So in the restock section, recall we indicated that for location 1, we bought 30. This means 30 kg. So it's the same unit of measure across all sections. So this means we bought 30 kg. In the same way, in the requirements section, when you're entering quantity, it's asking you how many kgs of Zobo leaves do you need for 1 bottle. So let's assume that you need 100 grams. So you simply convert 100 grams to kg, which will give you 0.1. So it has to be the same unit of measure. If you're using kgs here, you need to use kgs all across all sections for that particular raw material. Okay, so this is 100 grams. So I've converted it to kilograms, which gives me 0.1 kilogram. So I need 0.1 kilograms of Zobo leaves to produce 1 bottle of Zobo drink. I do the same for sugar. Now in the raw materials, my unit of measure is packets. Here I can specify the size of a packet. So let's assume that a packet of sugar is 500 grams. That means that in my restock section, if I indicate sugar, so there's no sugar purchase. So if I add a new purchase of sugar in location 1, sugar, if I enter 10, what I'm saying is that 10 packets of 500 grams sugar. That means in total, 5,000 grams of sugar. So the quantity here has to be the same as in the product section. So if I click enter, what I'm telling the template is that I bought 10 packets of sugar and each packet is 500 grams. It has to be the same unit of measure. So in the requirements section, I need to tell the template what percentage of a packet, since my unit of measure is in packets, so what proportion of a packet, or what percentage, of a packet do I need to produce one bottle of Zobo drink? So let's assume that I need only 10% or 1% of the packet, so I go ahead and enter 0.01. So here you enter the percentage of the packet, since the unit of measure is in packets. Okay, so I hope that better explains it. You can also enter an optional description. So here I can indicate maybe the preparation method, what I use the sugar for, or just any additional, details. It's actually optional, but you need to enter the material required and the quantity. So that's pretty much how the requirement section works. You click on the button, indicates the product, specify the number of raw materials. The number you enter here determines the number of rows that Excel is going to insert. And for each row, you indicate the material required, the quantity, and an optional description. So now that we've covered the requirement section, if I go back to my product section, raw material section, first of all, you notice that sugar is increased because I entered that we purchased 10. So it's no more red because we purchased 10. The reorder level is 5, so 10 is greater than 5, so the red alert is gone. So now that I've entered quantities for the 2 raw materials, I can enter a production process. So next I go to the production section. Now the production section is in the reports tab. So once I click on reports, it opens up my reports dashboard. Now this has additional buttons for other sections. You notice the location section where we can update our location information. I'll come back to that. But this is where we want to go, where we enter our daily production information. Now, once you click on it, it's going to take us to that section. This is where you document your daily production activities. You simply make use of the new production button at the top. It pops up a form. You indicate the date that you're making the production, the quantity, the location, and the product name. Now, before I can enter a production, I need to have told the template the storage capacity for the location that I'm making that production. Okay, so let me just cancel this and go back to my storage limits. Did I add for Zobo? Yes, I did. So I need to have told the template for location 1, this is the maximum units of Zobo drinks that it can hold. For location 2, this is the maximum. So that way, when I'm producing, the template can check to be sure that I don't exceed this number. So I don't produce too much, that I can be able to store in my location. So going back to the production section, since I've already entered the storage limits, I can go ahead and add a new production. Now I'm going to enter the same date for all my demonstrations. Next, I indicate the location. This is going to be location 1. And then the product that I want to produce. Now, once you indicate the product, the template will automatically tell you the same thing, just like the restock section, that you have space available of 100. The capacity of the location is 100. So that means that I have 0 units of Zobo as at today in location 1. Now here, if I go ahead and enter 200, it's going to tell me it's above. So I cannot store this because I cannot store 200 because my capacity is only 100. Now I can change this to a lower value, for instance, 5, and you notice it accepts it. I can go ahead and store. Now once I click enter, the template is going to store this to my database. It tells me production added. So the first row should be automatically populated. The date of the production, the location, the Zobo drink, and the quantity. So location 1 should now have 5 packets of Zobo. So if I go back to my product section, we should see that it has automatically increased by 5. But 5 is still less than 20. That's why it's still red, because my reorder number should be nothing less than 20. So that's how all sections are interconnected. In the same way, my raw materials will have been reduced because to produce 5 units, I had to make use of the raw materials. So if I go back to my production section, you notice that there's a button here that takes us to the usage summary section. This is going to list all raw materials that have been used in the production process. So clicking on the usage summary button, it's going to take us to that section. And you notice that it has listed the 2 raw materials that were used in the production process. It uses the same identical date, the same location. This is very important. So if in the production process, you indicated that this production is being undertaken in location 1, it's going to reduce raw materials from location 1. So it's going to be an identical date and an identical location. Going back to the usage summary section, It's going to indicate the raw materials, that's the zobo leaves and sugar, as we indicated in the requirements section, and their respective quantities. Now let's do the manual calculations ourselves. Now in the product section, we indicated that we produced today 5 bottles of zobo. And in the requirements section, we already specified that to produce 1 bottle of zobo, we need 0.1 kg, that's 100 grams, and 0.01, that's 1% of a packet of sugar. So basically, the template is going to multiply this quantity by 5 because we produced 5 bottles today. So 0.1 times 5 will give us 0.5, which is 500 grams, and 0.01 times 5 will give us 5% of a packet of sugar. So going back to the usage summary section, we should see the quantities that I just calculated, 0.5 and 0.05. So regardless of the number of raw materials, even if there are 20 raw materials, it will automatically list each of the 20, then multiply the requirement quantity by the quantity produced to give you the quantity used. In addition to that, the template will automatically reduce the balance in the raw material section by the quantity you specify. So recall that in the restock section, we indicated that we've purchased a total of 60 kg of zobo leaves. We purchased 30, 20, 10, which gives us a total of 60. Now from the 60, we've used 0.5. So the balance in the raw material section, notice it has reduced to 59.5. So all sections are interconnected. So now this is the balance we have in store. As we produce additional units, this will continue to reduce. As we purchase additional units using the restock section, this will continue to increase. So that's how the production functionality works. First of all, you need to indicate the requirements. So for each of your products, you need to indicate the raw materials that you need to produce each unit. Next, you need to indicate the production. So on a daily basis, as you undertake production activities, you click on new production, supply the values, and then click on enter. The template will automatically calculate the raw materials used, subtract that from the balance, and display them in the usage summary section. So that covers the production functionality. Next, we can now make sales because now we have products that we can sell. So if we go to the product section, you notice that the zobo drink has increased by 5. It's still red because our minimum order level should be 20. But 5 is less than 20, that's why it's red. So in other words, we need to actually produce an additional 16 units at least to be able to meet up with our reorder level. I'm just going to ignore that for now. Just going to go to the sales section so I can cover that functionality. To do that, I simply click on the sales label. It takes me to the sales section of the template. Now, the sales section is also known as the movement section. The template enables you to document sales to end users and also transfers across locations because it's possible that you can move some products from location 1 to location 2. So that way it will automatically reduce your balance in location 1 and increase your balance in location 2. So that's why in the upper left hand corner it tells us that you document product sales and also product movement. To the right of this we have 2 buttons: to add a new movement, to delete an existing movement. Above this we have our navigation pane. Below we have our data table where all movement activities will be listed. Now to add a new movement, you simply click on the new movement button, pops up a form, and you supply the values. It will automatically enter today's date. You can modify the date, the month, or the year. Next, you indicate the source location. The source location is the location in which you want to reduce the quantities. So if I indicate location 1, it means that any product I sell in location 1, the balance will reduce. If I indicate location 2, it will reduce from location 2. Okay, so I'm going to indicate location 1. Next, I'm going to select the product that I want to sell. And the only product I can sell is my zobo. So once I indicate zobo, it tells me the balance I have here. So I know I cannot sell more than 5 because I only have 5 units in which I produced today. Next, I indicate the quantity, for instance, 2. The movement type. Now, this is very important. If I'm selling to an end user, so this is leaving my stock completely, I enter sale. So that way it will reduce the balance from 5 to 3, and that will be the new balance for zobo in location 1. If I indicate transfer, however, it means that I'm transferring these 2 units from this location, then I need to specify another location. For instance, location 2. So in this case, it's going to reduce location 1 balance by 2, excuse me. So location 1 is going to have 3 units and location 2 is now going to have 2 units. Please note that the overall balance is not going to reduce in the product section because it's still in my inventory. It's still my product. I haven't sold it out. So this is just movement across inventories. Now, once I click enter, so I'm telling the template that today I'm going to transfer 2 units of my Zobo drink from location 1 to location 2. Once I click enter, it's going to store that transfer. We should see it listed on the first row. There we go. So what this means is that my balance should still be 5 because I haven't sold anything. So you notice my balance is still 5. The only difference now is location 1 as 3, location 2 as 2. And I can confirm that by going to the sales section. A quick way to confirm that is to click on new movements. If I select location 1 and I select Zobo, you notice it tells me a balance of 3. If I select location 2 and then I select Zobo, it tells me a balance of, so I need to reselect Zobo there. It tells me a balance of 2. So you need to refresh the product name. So if I select product 1 and Zobo, it tells me I have a balance of 3. If I change this to location 2 and then I reselect Zobo, it tells me I have a balance of 2. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Whenever you change the location, you need to refresh the product name. You simply delete the entry and then re-enter it. So that's a summary of how the movement functionality works. It's going to, your overall balance is going to be the same, but your location balance is going to vary. In the same way, I'm going to add a sale. This time around, it's going to be from location 1. Once I select Zobo, we should have 3. And I'm going to sell 2. This is going to be a sale, and here I can enter the person I'm selling it to, or I can leave it blank. So that's the customer's name, or I can leave it blank. It's an optional field. And once I click enter, you notice that it documents that, and that's a sale. So what that means is that my balance should have reduced by 2 because this has left my inventory. If I go back to my product section, you notice the balance is now 3. So that's the major difference between a movement and a sale. So that pretty much covers the sales section. So whenever any product leaves your stock, you document it here. Whenever you transfer across locations, you document it here. Simply click on new movements, supply all the values, and then click on enter. And to delete, you simply click on any cell in that row, click delete, and then click yes. So that covers the sales section. Next, we move to the report section. So we've covered all the sections on the navigation pane. We started with the raw materials, then products, restock, and so on. So clicking on the reports takes us back to the reports dashboard. And this is where I'm going to go through the automatically generated reports by the template.